Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and on April 1st, 2014, it was reported that Age of Extinction Transformers were showing up at Ontario Walmarts. Dismissal of an April Fool's joke ranged from jovial to enraged, but by April 2nd, everyone shut up when a few people came home with Trans4mers toys. It looks like it was a stock placement anomaly that was quickly corrected, but until they appear again, I'm chilling out with the Voyager price-pointed Grimlock figure on my desk. By the way, I dig these new impact-fonted eye-catching Transformers boxes. It's a nice change of pace to see some super-piercing white-on-red huge letters and etc. Class 01 Destroyer! What? And, I guess the packaging is durable too? I don't know, I have issues. One of two iterations of the new movie Grimlock coming down the pipe, this Robo-T-Rex is a dinosaur made of knives. He's got a solid shape, sharp ridges, and a friggin' characterful head sculpt that's topped with friggin' shiny silver paint. His color work overall is pretty punchy, between metallic plastics, that shimmering silver, and glossy black paint. Unfortunately, he's also patchy and gappy like nobody's business. There's this void running around the front of Grimlock's dino chest that feels like it's supposed to close up and smooth out the hump on his back. Unfortunately, he ends up kinda lumpy. Also, Grimlock's Rex head seems slightly oversized compared to the rest of his body, making him oddly cute in a way that probably wasn't intentional. Regardless, he is mine to cuddle. And, okay, fine. Okay, yo, look, it's a toy riding Grimlock. There you go. When speaking on the subject of the posability of robot dinosaur toys, one must always wonder how crazy their eyes are. Whoop, light's in the way. How crazy their eyes are. Seriously. Insane. Anyway, the other thing to wonder about is whether or not the mouth can move. And Grimmy's mouth can totally move, except it opens again. It's because there's a spring-loaded gimmick, so you can do that. That's quite enough of that. This is kind of a bummer. I mean, it's not like a poor gimmick. It works fine, and it's not really eating up parts count, but I wish it worked the other way. I wish that the mouth was closed and I push a button to open it. You know, for some reason, I find it sillier to push a button to close a mouth. I don't know why. Anyway, he's just kind of permanently going, ha! You can, if you tilt his head back, do this, and then that'll prevent the spring from pushing the whatever back out. But it won't always work, because you might sit here going, you know, in front of a camera trying to film for like a minute straight, showing how that works, and it doesn't. But his arms, his little T-Rex arms, are fairly posable. There's a surprising range on this ball joint, because there's a big cut in the front for the sake of the transformation. So he can really, like, he can put his little hands together, and he can scheme, he can go, He does have these plates that his little arms are attached to, which, as you can see, they like to move a lot when you're moving his arms. They look like they're floating in space, but they actually do tab in. Like, right over here, there is a spot. It's not a poor connection either. It feels pretty solid, but there's just enough smush to it that grabbing an arm and moving it around a lot can eventually lead to, you know, de-locking it. His legs have got the robot mode shoulders as hips, so it's a universal joint. Works great. There's a thigh swivel that once was a bicep swivel. There is a knee joint that once was an elbow joint. It's a pretty deep knee joint as well, because the elbow joint is pretty deep. There is another joint here if you want to do that, but I wouldn't recommend doing that too much, because eventually you're going to just see a thumb, and this thing is meant to plug in and clip in. So it's not really meant to bend in the dino mode, but you know what? It's your toy and it's your imagination. If you do unlock it, that does free the foot to swivel around like this, and that can lead to some options, because then, you know, you've got all this stuff going. His heel can do this, too. Doesn't really help anybody. His tail is more or less immobile, and that kind of surprised me. Now, his tail also, like, there's a peg here that goes into a hole, but it totally, you know, goes in, you're like, alright. Aww. And it just does that over and over again. There are a couple of tabs up here that hold the tail in place. Much like the tabs over here, they're pretty solid, but since they're the only locking point, you just have to do this, and now you've unlocked one of the tabs. And, yeah, the tail has these there are two rotating joints in here with a rivet through them. I thought that meant there would be, with this connected, unified tail swishing, but there's nothing. That's all for the robot mode. There is one final thing you can do. His weapon has got a couple of little grooves there and there to go with tabs that are there and on the other side. This literally means you can just slide this weapon onto his tail. It's pretty tight, not in a bad way, just it's surprising. Now it's all the way in, and now his tail is longer than the rest of his body. This thing, like, you could pull this thing off, but then where are you going to put this? I don't know, somewhere over here? Maybe, I guess, actually, you could, I don't know, find a spot. According to the instructions, this is what you want to do. As a T-Rex, as a posable robot T-Rex, the amount of range in his legs is not bad, because it means that with, like, one leg bent and the other straight, you can kind of have him walking. And that's cool. You do have to detab that part for that to take effect, but hey, sacrifice has got to be made. Like I said, you can have him touch his fingers together. You can have him go hang, 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 hang. To deconstruct Grimlock's transformation is to say that his robot mode sits up while the T-Rex head turns inside out. There's a satisfying solidity to a lot of this, though, as joint movements are smooth and almost every shifted panel finds a new slot to tab into. The little Rex arm panels actually untab and retab while making a double-jointed move around the robot hips, acting with a bit more purpose than I originally expected. As for that inside-out Rex head comment, things do feel a little overly cramped the first time you push the Dino mode's hump through the splitting T-Rex skull, but once you know what you're supposed to do, it comes off more clever than scary. And there are more locking tabs, too. The arms have their own semi-complex little series of flips and swivels, but unlike the rest of the conversion, I feel this part is a little overwrought for what it's doing, though I may be somewhat biased by the end result of gorilla arms. Finally, there's one more step to execute. Yes! Perfection! The Dinosaurs have returned in Transformers 4, led by a Grimlock unlike any we've seen before. He's still clearly a mighty fellow, burly and armored, with a split T-Rex skull for shoulder pads! Shoulder pads which, unfortunately, never quite look like they're resting on his shoulders so much as floating over top. But hey, I gotta give some props to his battle skirt. The front three plates are as good as one would expect, but that back plate is putting a lot of effort into not looking like half a mouth hanging off of Grimlock's butt. Many of these parts were quite visible in T-Rex mode, though I do want to point out the hella cool chest, combining a tribal necklace of robot fangs with a slightly knightly raised front collar of armor, makes me feel good. But Grimlock's robot head sculpt makes me feel great. This is friggin' sharp. Crisp facial details aside, I love the meaty neck that's bulging out from under his jaw, and that goofy spike mohawked helmet is shameless and proud. Light piping is totally gone, but with good reason. Grimlock's got piercing green eyes painted inside an ink-shaded socket, which is the one thing I will always take in place of good old-fashioned light-refracting clear plastic. Delicious optics. It's a whole new movie, it's a whole new line, and let's start off by talking about feet. I want to show you something. So he doesn't have ankle tilts, and in fact his feet are kind of thin. They're long, so he's got a good standing base when his legs are close together, but as they get farther apart, things get a little bit like he's got skis for feet. There's a way to fix this. There is a tilt. It's not in the ankle, but it's kind of 3/4 of the way down the shin. You can see the rivet back here where it's happening. I guess you could call it a boot cut, kind of. Now, it's cool because if you use it very subtly, you can add this, and you know, if you use it with the thigh swivels, you can get this really cool hero pose going on where there's this lovely curvature. The easiest reference I can give you is animated Optimus Prime, where there's this S-curve, and I love the S-curve. If you overuse these things, then you just get a dude who's hella bow-legged, and don't do that. Speaking of his thigh swivels, they work real nice. There's a hip joint that works real nice. There's a knee joint that's decent. It's actually a little bit detented, but the detents are so soft you can actually just move it between detents. You're only going to hear or feel, maybe hear it if you got super hearing, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da if you do that a lot. His feet can do this, but why? No reason. His skirt's pretty good at staying out of the way of stuff. Like in T-Rex mode, these panels, even though they're tabbing into a whole new slot, they're still pretty good at sitting there solidly until you bump them a lot. You're not going to do it as easily as in T-Rex mode because you're not moving a thing around that's attached to them as much, unless you want to give him vestigial arms, which I guess you could do, but why? they stay in place pretty well. All the skirt stuff is really good at staying out of the way of the posability. Like, the front skirt flap can do this, so he can, like, pee. There's no waist joint or rotational joint in the chest, which is my one big posability bummer aside from something over here. And I was looking at this guy. Everything is sandwiching around a spinal core, and I just don't see where a rotation really could have fit in easily. So I can begrudgingly forgive that. His head has 2 joints because it rotates and it tilts forwards more so than backwards. And it's all happening actually down here. Like, the rotation's at the base of the neck, and then the thing it's rotating in moves around on its own little seesaw kind of dealy. So that's neat. He can look down at puny creatures. His shoulders have got a great range of posability. His elbows are delicious, because, like, oh, there's a bicep swivel as well. They can bend so deep, given that they are a single hinge. That's a super deep bend for a single hinge, I think, given his burly arms. Now, his hands, check it out, they can rotate, but they bring all this junk with them. So there's actually, like, a slot, and it clips in to give him my least favorite thing in all of Trans4mers, which is the gorilla arm, where the elbow bends inwards, and if you want to have the elbow bend forwards, then the palm is always up, and I hate that. So there's a wrist joint. You can fix that, but then this junk is sticking out just a little bit farther than if it was fully tabbed in. I mean, it's still sticking out, right? But it's a block. Like this, it's more like a hanging thing. So that's kind of annoying that, like, the solution is there, but it's like the toy actively wants to have gorilla arms, even though I'm telling it, no, don't do that. You'll understand when you're older. Also, a lot of these joints feel really smooth and tight. Not like squeaky tight, but just this really perfect plastic tolerance. They hit the assembly quality on this guy real out of the park, in my opinion. Just there's a great feel overall, and I mean, like, he can take it, man. He's also got this weapon. It's a club. It's it's got a blade on the other end. It's a big spiky thing on. It's dumb for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, there's a hole in the top. I mean, this is you can stick the tail in, which is, I guess, reason 1A why it's dumb. But the other really dumb thing is the handle's all the way up here, so you can have him hold on to his club, and when he's just standing still, it looks great. You know, hey, you know what? I got a club. What of it? When you want to have him start swinging it around, it looks kind of dumb, because he's got no range and no torque, because he's holding this thing right underneath the striking part, and there is, like, no way whatsoever to get him to hold on to the anywhere on the shaft. It doesn't come apart, so you can slide it through his fist hole. You can pull this part off, but that's gonna do less to help. I don't like this weapon a whole lot. It has a storage point back here where you can you can stick it in there, and it's hanging across his back. It looks okay like this. He can't reach back and grab it because the handle's stuck into his butt, and it sticks into, it's literally just a screw hole that happens to be there, and it sticks in there tighter than in his fist, so it's actually a whole lot of work to get it back out. It's easier to, like, you grab back here and you push up. I hate this thing. It sucks. This guy, though, he does a lot more than I thought he was going to do when I first saw photos of him from Toy Fair. And the posability on this guy, it's not bad. I mean, you ignore the big things on there, and you get over the lack of a waist joint, and his range is pretty good, and his personality and ability to take on some strong silhouettes is great. Oh yeah, if you want, you can also pose his shoulder pads, and you can pose his spikes, and you can pose his flap. You can push the button to make his tail wag, and Let me say it up front, I do not give a freshly flung dino crap about this guy not entirely resembling the Grimlocks of old. We're 4 movies in, this shouldn't be a shock to the system. However, I am smirking at the parallels that are there, T-Rex mode aside. The skeleton of Voyager Grimlock's transformation is really close to the G1 toy. Legs from the tail, arms from the feet, T-Rex claws hanging off the forearms, etc. Where Voyager Grimlock goes a bit sour are the first wave woes that always seem to pop up on movie toys. His dinosaur mode is patchwork and unconfident, in a way that hardcore feels like designers and engineers were working alongside blueprints and CG models that were still under development while the toy was being made. Also, while there is a slightly messy solution, I will never not frown at a Trans4mers toy that actively tries to engage in gorilla arm syndrome. And that weapon just doesn't work, man. The thick and smooth feel of his joints and the copious number of solid locking tabs both go a long way in pumping up my least anticipated Age of Extinction Voyager. Make no mistake, promo material had me looking at this guy as a poor substitute for the leader class Grimlock. Getting him in hand, I gotta say there's something in here that I dig. Tossing his club and giving him some other things to hold on to, I'm finding a touch of personality in Hollywood's Grimmy. And seeing that classic heroic curvature and stance in a Wave 1 movie toy does give me hope for what's to come. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I probably won't be getting my hands on any other Trans4mers toys until their mid-May release date. So until then... Okay, fine. Fine. Here, look. He has a head on his ass. You win, Internet. Congratulations! You monsters.